morning full of chaos. Jade Morrison's alarm didn't go off. When she finally opened her eyes, sunlight was already streaming through the thin curtains of her tiny studio apartment. The numbers on her phone screen made her heart drop. 10:47 a.m. The wedding started at 11 o'clock. She jumped out of bed, so fast that she nearly tripped over her easel. Paintbrushes scattered across the floor. Half-finished canvases leaned against every wall. This was her life. Chaotic, messy, always running behind. But today was different. Today was Ashley's wedding. Jade was supposed to be a bridesmaid. She grabbed the lavender dress hanging on her closet door. It was simple, but elegant, exactly Ashley's style. Jade had spent her last paycheck on it, money she really needed for rent. But Ashley was her best friend since they were 7 years old. Some things mattered more than money. The shower was ice cold because she forgot to pay the gas bill again. Jade scrubbed quickly, teeth chattering. No time for makeup. No time to do anything right. She pulled her dark curly hair into a messy bun, threw on the dress, and grabbed her silver heels. The bus stop was 3 blocks away. Jade ran in her bare feet, holding her shoes. People stared as she rushed past. An older woman shook her head. A teenager laughed and pointed. Jade didn't care. She had to get to that wedding. When she reached the bus stop, her chest was heaving. The next bus wasn't for another 20 minutes. Panic rose in her throat. She looked around desperately. No taxis in sight. Her phone was almost dead, and she had exactly $6 in her wallet. A delivery truck pulled up at the red light nearby. Without thinking, Jade ran to the window. The driver, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, looked surprised. "Please," Jade gasped. "I need to get to Riverside Garden. My best friend is getting married and I'm her bridesmaid and I'm so late and I don't have money for a cab, but I can paint you something. Anything, I'm an artist, and please, please help me." The driver studied her face for a long moment. Then he smiled. "I'm heading that direction anyway." Jade almost cried with relief. The garden gates, 20 minutes later, the truck stopped at the gates of Riverside Garden. The venue was beautiful, surrounded by tall oak trees and blooming roses. Through the iron gates, Jade could see white chairs arranged in neat rows. Everyone was already seated. "Thank you so much," Jade said, climbing out. "I mean it. You saved my life." The driver waved her off. "Go on now. Don't keep your friend waiting." Jade slipped on her heels and ran up the stone pathway. Her dress caught on a rose bush and tore slightly at the hem. She didn't stop. The sound of a violin drifted through the air. They had already started. The ceremony was being held in an open garden pavilion. Jade could see the backs of guests' heads. At the front, Ashley stood in a stunning white gown next to a tall man in a dark suit. The officiant held an open book. Jade tried to enter quietly through the side. But the gravel path crunched loudly under her heels. A few people turned, then more, then everyone. Ashley's eyes went wide. Her mother looked furious. But it was the groom who made Jade freeze in place. Cameron Blake turned around, and their eyes locked. When time stopped, everything seemed to slow down. Cameron stared at Jade like he had never seen anything more beautiful in his entire life. His expression was pure shock, mixed with something else, something that looked almost like recognition. Even though they had never met, Jade felt her face burning. She knew how she must look, hair falling out of its bun, dress torn, shoes dirty, completely out of breath. She was a disaster, crashing into a perfect moment. "I'm so sorry," Jade whispered, though her voice carried in the sudden silence. "The bus broke down and I didn't have cab money and I tried to get here but everything went wrong and I'm sorry." "Ashley, I'm so sorry." Ashley's face softened slightly. She gave a small nod. The officiant cleared his throat and gestured for everyone to turn back around. Slowly, the guests returned their attention to the ceremony, but Cameron kept looking at Jade. She quickly moved to sit in the back row, trying to make herself invisible. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Through the rest of the ceremony, she kept feeling eyes on her. Every time she glanced up, Cameron was watching her. Even as he said his vows to Ashley, something was very wrong. The reception. Revelation: the reception was held in a large tent, decorated with fairy lights and white flowers. Jade sat alone at a corner table, nursing a glass of water. She had tried to help in the kitchen, but Ashley's mother had firmly told her to sit down and stay out of the way. The bride and groom were making their rounds, greeting guests. Everyone seemed wealthy here. The women wore designer dresses and expensive jewelry. The men had watches that probably cost more than Jade's yearly income. She felt completely out of place. "You're Jade, right?" She looked up. Cameron stood beside her table, holding 2 champagne glasses. Up close, he was even more striking. Dark hair, sharp jawline, eyes the color of stormy seas. But there was something gentle in his expression. "Yes," Jade said quietly. "I'm really sorry about earlier. I ruined your ceremony." "You didn't ruin anything." Cameron sat down without asking permission. He offered her one of the glasses. "You made it interesting." Jade took the champagne with shaking hands. "I don't think your wife would agree. She's not really my wife." But the words came out flat, emotionless. "Not in the way that matters." Jade's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Cameron took a long drink. He looked tired suddenly, like he was carrying a weight that had been pressing down on him for years. "This whole thing is an arrangement. Ashley needed financial security and freedom from her controlling parents. I needed a respectable image for my business partners. We made a deal." "A deal?" Jade felt sick. "You're telling me you just married my best friend as some kind of business transaction?" "She agreed to it." Cameron looked at her seriously. "It was her idea, actually." "No love involved. Just practical benefits for both sides." Jade set down her champagne glass with a sharp click. "That's horrible. I thought it was smart." Cameron's voice dropped. "I thought it was exactly what I wanted. A simple solution, with no messy emotions. No one gets hurt because no one expects anything real. And now?" He turned to face her fully. "Now I'm sitting here at my own wedding reception, talking to a woman I just met. And for the first time in 10 years, I feel something." Jade's breath caught. "Cameron, you can't say things like that." "Why not?" His eyes searched her face. "Because it's inappropriate? Because I just got married? Or because you feel it too?" She stood up quickly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I need to go. Wait." Cameron caught her wrist gently. "Please don't leave. You just married my best friend," Jade hissed, pulling away. "Whatever you think you're feeling, it's wrong. You made a commitment to a lie. Then that's something you need to figure out with Ashley." Jade grabbed her small purse. "Not with me." She walked quickly toward the exit, weaving between tables. Behind her, she heard Cameron call her name, but she didn't stop. Outside the tent, the evening air was cool and fresh. Jade took deep breaths, trying to calm her racing heart. What had just happened? How could Ashley agree to marry someone without love? And why did Cameron look at her like she was the answer to a question he didn't know he was asking? Jade started walking down the garden path toward the main road. She would find a bus stop or walk all the way home if she had to. Anything to get away from this mess. "Jade, wait." She turned around. Cameron was jogging after her, his tie loosened, jacket gone. He looked desperate. "Please," he said when he reached her. "Just let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," Jade said firmly. "You made your choice. Live with it." "What if I made the wrong choice?" The vulnerability in his voice stopped her. Cameron ran a hand through his hair, making it messy. He looked nothing like the polished groom from an hour ago. "I built my whole life around being successful," he continued. "Making money, closing deals, building an empire. I convinced myself that was enough. That love was just a distraction for weak people. And now?" Jade asked softly. Cameron stepped closer. "Now I see you covered in dirt and completely out of place at this fancy wedding. I realize I've been dead inside for years. You're real, Jade, you're alive. And that terrifies me because I don't know what to do with that feeling." Jade felt tears prick her eyes. "You're married, Cameron. To my best friend. Whatever this is, it can't happen. I know." He looked miserable. "I know that. But I needed you to understand. When you walked into that ceremony late and messy and absolutely beautiful, Something in me woke up, and I don't think I can go back to sleep. Before Jade could respond, her phone rang loudly in her purse. She fumbled for it. Ashley's name flashed on the screen. "Hello?" Jade answered, her voice shaky. "Where are you?" Ashley's voice was calm. Too calm. "People are asking about the bridesmaid who ran away. I'm sorry. I just needed some air." "Are you with Cameron?" Jade looked at him. He was watching her intently. Yes, there was a long pause. Then Ashley laughed, a cold, brittle sound. "Of course you are." "Jade, sweetheart, let me give you some advice. Cameron Blake is very good at making women feel special. It's one of his talents. But in the end, he always chooses his empire over everything else. Don't be stupid." The call ended. Jade lowered the phone slowly. She knows. She always knows. Cameron's jaw tightened. Ashley is many things, but she's not naive. She probably saw this coming the moment you walked in. "What do we do?" Cameron looked at her for a long moment. Then he held out his hand. "Come with me." "Where?" "Away from here. Just for tonight, let me show you something real." Jade knew she should say no. She should walk away, go home, forget this ever happened. But something in Cameron's eyes made her want to take the risk. Made her want to believe that maybe, just maybe, some things were worth breaking the rules for. She took his hand. Together. They walked away from the wedding, away from the life Cameron had carefully constructed, and towards something neither of them could name, but both desperately needed. The drive. Into unknown. Cameron's car was sleek and black, the kind that whispered wealth without screaming it. Jade slid into the passenger seat, her heart hammering against her ribs. The leather was soft, expensive. Everything in this car probably cost more than everything she owned combined. "Where are we going?" she asked as Cameron started the engine. "Somewhere we can talk without 100 people watching." He pulled out of the parking lot, leaving the fairy lights and music behind. Somewhere honest. They drove in silence for a while. The city lights blurred past the windows. Jade watched Cameron's profile in the darkness. His jaw was set, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. He looked like a man walking toward the edge of a cliff, knowing he was going to jump. After 30 minutes, they left the city completely. The road became narrower, winding through hills covered in pine trees. Finally, Cameron turned onto a dirt path that led to a small cabin overlooking a lake. Moonlight reflected off the water like scattered silver coins. "This is my place," Cameron said quietly. "No one else knows about it. Not Ashley, not my business partners, not even my family." Jade stepped out of the car. The air smelled like pine needles and water. It was peaceful here, far away from everything. "It's beautiful. It's the only place I feel like myself." Cameron unlocked the cabin door. Inside was simple but comfortable. A stone fireplace, worn leather couch, bookshelves filled with old novels. Nothing like the luxury Jade expected from a successful businessman. She walked to the window and looked out at the lake. "Cameron, we need to talk about what's happening, I know." He came to stand beside her. "You want to know who I really am? I want to know why a man who just got married is standing here with me instead of with his wife." Cameron was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with something that sounded like shame. "My full name is Cameron Blake. I own Blake Technologies. We develop software for major corporations worldwide. Last year, my company was valued at $3 billion. Jade felt the floor shift under her feet. $3 billion. I started it 10 years ago with money I borrowed from my father. He owns Blake Industries, a manufacturing empire. Our family has been wealthy for 3 generations. Cameron turned to face her. The marriage to Ashley was supposed to merge her father's real estate holdings with my technology platform. A business expansion disguised as a love story. Oh my God. Jade backed away from him. "You're not just rich. You're a billionaire. Does that change something?" "It changes everything." Jade's voice rose. "I thought you were just a regular person trapped in a bad situation. But you're part of this whole world I don't understand. A world where people get married like they're signing contracts." Cameron reached for her, but she stepped back. "Jade, the money doesn't matter. Of course it matters. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I live in a studio apartment where the heat doesn't work half the time. I eat ramen for dinner 4 nights a week. I sold 3 paintings last month and felt like a queen because I could finally pay my electric bill on time. None of that changes who you are. It changes everything about who we could be. Sat down on the couch, suddenly exhausted. Cameron, I can't compete with your world. I don't know how to be around people who have personal assistants and vacation homes. I don't belong there. The truth about Ashley Cameron sat beside her, keeping a careful distance. Ashley doesn't love me, Jade. She told me that on our second date. She said she needed a husband who would leave her alone, give her freedom and money, and ask for nothing emotional in return. That doesn't make sense. Ashley always talked about finding true love. That was before her parents threatened to cut her off completely unless she married someone they approved of. Cameron's expression was grim. Her father is Richard Grant. He owns half the commercial real estate in this state. He's also controlling, manipulative, and convinced that Ashley is wasting her life. Jade remembered the way Ashley had changed over the past 2 years. How she stopped talking about her dreams of becoming a photographer. How she started wearing expensive clothes that looked like uniforms. How her smile never quite reached her eyes anymore. She gave up, Jade whispered. She made a calculated choice. Marry me, get access to her trust fund, and live however she wants as long as she plays the role of the perfect wife in public. Cameron stood and walked to the fireplace. I thought it was brilliant. No messy feelings, no broken hearts, just 2 people helping each other get what they need. What changed? He turned to look at her. You walked into that ceremony late and I saw something I didn't know I was missing. Someone who was completely, messily, beautifully real.
Oh.
Jade felt tears burning her eyes. This is impossible, Cameron. I know. You made promises today. In front of witnesses, in front of God, I made promises to a lie. His voice was fierce now. I stood there and said words that meant nothing because neither of us believed them. Is that better than this? Than feeling something true for the first time in my adult life? Before Jade could answer, her phone buzzed. She pulled it from her purse. The screen was full of notifications. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all exploding with activity. Her hands started shaking as she opened Instagram. The first post was a photo of her and Cameron walking away from the wedding reception together. Her face was visible, full of emotion. His hand was reaching for hers. The caption read, Billionaire Cameron Blake leaves his own wedding reception with mystery woman. Scandal rocks Grant Blake wedding. No, Jade whispered. No. Cameron leaned over to look. His face went pale. How did they get this? Jade scrolled frantically. More photos. Cameron talking to her at the reception. Their hands touching. Him chasing after her in the garden. Someone had been documenting everything. The comments were vicious. Who is this woman? Homewrecker, gold digger, trying to trap a billionaire? Poor Ashley. Betrayed at her own wedding. Jade's phone started ringing. Unknown number. She didn't answer. It rang again immediately. And again, they found your name, Cameron said quietly, reading over her shoulder. Jade Morrison, 28, struggling artist. Lives in a studio apartment in the Arts District. Works part-time at a coffee shop. How do they know all this? Jade felt sick. Once one person finds out, everyone knows. Cameron's face was grim. This is what my world is like, Jade. Everything is public. Everything is judged. The storm breaks. Jade's phone rang again. This time, it was her mother. She answered with shaking hands. Gosh, Jade, Elizabeth Morrison, what have you done? Her mother's voice was shrill with panic. I have reporters calling me. Your aunt just sent me an article with your picture. They're saying you broke up a wedding. Mom, I didn't break up anything. Then why are you all over the internet with some billionaire? Why is everyone calling you terrible names? Jade pressed her hand to her forehead. It's complicated. Complicated? Jade, this is going to ruin you. Do you understand that? No one will ever hire you. Your art career is over before it started. You'll be known as the woman who destroyed a marriage. The marriage was already destroyed, Jade said quietly. It wasn't real. It doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter. What matters is what people believe, and right now they believe you're a villain. The call ended. Jade sat frozen, staring at her phone. More notifications were pouring in. Friend requests from strangers. Direct messages full of hate. Someone had found her art portfolio online and was leaving cruel comments on every piece. Work is as ugly as your soul. Talentless. Gold digger. Hope the money was worth your integrity. Cameron gently took the phone from her hands. Stop reading them. They're destroying me. Jade's voice broke. Everything I worked for, everything I am, they're tearing it apart. I won't let them. Cameron's expression was fierce. I'm going to fix this. How? You can't put this back in the box. The whole world thinks I'm a terrible person. Cameron pulled out his own phone and started typing rapidly. I'm calling my publicist. We're going to release a statement explaining everything. No. Jade grabbed his wrist. That will make it worse. How could it possibly be worse? Because then you'll have to tell the truth about your marriage. You'll hurt Ashley. You'll damage both your families. Jade stood up, pacing. Cameron, I need to go home. I need to disappear until this blows over. It won't blow over. Not unless we control the narrative. A new call came through on Cameron's phone. He looked at the screen and his face went hard. It's my father. He answered on speaker. Hello, what the hell were you thinking? The voice was cold, authoritative. I have board members calling me. Our stock price dropped 2 points in an hour because of pictures of you abandoning your wedding. The wedding was fake, Dad. You know that. I don't care if it was fake. It was supposed to look real. That was the entire point. His father's voice rose. Do you have any idea how much damage you've done? Richard Grant is threatening to pull out of our development deal. His lawyers are already talking about breach of contract. Maybe the deal wasn't worth it. Then, very quietly, what did you say? I said maybe some things are more important than business deals. Nothing is more important than this family's legacy. Nothing. You will fix this situation immediately. You will apologize to the Grants. You will release a statement saying this was all a misunderstanding. And you will never see that woman again. Cameron looked at Jade. She was standing by the window, arms wrapped around herself, tears streaming down her face. No, Cameron said firmly. Excuse me. I said no. I'm not apologizing for feeling something real for the first time in my life. I'm not pretending anymore. Then you leave me no choice. His father's voice was ice. Consider yourself removed from Blake's Technologies, effective immediately. Your trust fund is frozen. Your position on the board is terminated. You have 24 hours to vacate any property owned by the family. Fine. You're willing to throw away everything for some girl you just met. Cameron kept his eyes on Jade. Yes, then you're a fool. And you're no longer my son. The call ended. Jade turned to face him, her expression stricken. Cameron, what did you just do? What I should have done years ago? He walked over to her. I chose something real over something convenient. You chose nothing. You just lost everything. I lost money and status. That's not everything. Cameron cupped her face gently. Jade, I've been dead inside for so long I forgot what it felt like to be alive. You made me remember. This is crazy. But she didn't pull away. We barely know each other. Then let's get to know each other. Without the lies, without the pressure, without trying to be people, we're not. Jade closed her eyes. Everyone hates me. Not everyone. I don't. Your father just disowned you. Good, I never liked him much anyway. Despite everything, Jade laughed. It was a small broken sound, but it was real. This is the worst day of my life. Mine too. Cameron smiled slightly. But somehow I'm not sorry. They stood there in the quiet cabin, holding on to each other while the world outside exploded with judgment and rage. Neither of them knew what would happen next. Neither of them had any idea how they would survive what was coming. But for the first time in a long time, both of them felt something other than emptiness. They felt hope. The morning after the fall, Jade woke up on the couch in Cameron's cabin. Sunlight streamed through the windows, making patterns on the wooden floor. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. She grabbed her phone. The screen showed 247 missed calls and over 1,000 notifications. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the messages. Her landlord, "You need to move out." Press is camped outside the building. Other tenants are complaining. Her boss at the coffee shop, "Don't come in." Corporate says, "You're fired." Bad publicity. Her art gallery contact, "We're removing your pieces from the upcoming show. Sorry." One after another, the messages showed her life falling apart. People she thought were friends had sent hateful texts. Her social media accounts were flooded with strangers telling her to disappear, to die, to suffer. Cameron emerged from the bedroom looking like he hadn't slept. His usually neat hair was messy. He'd changed into jeans and a plain shirt. Without the expensive suit, he looked younger, more vulnerable. "How bad is it?" he asked. Jade showed him her phone silently. Cameron's jaw tightened as he read. "I'm calling my lawyer. This is harassment. We can get restraining orders against the entire internet." Jade laughed bitterly. "Cameron, I'm homeless, jobless. Everyone I know has turned against me. Your legal team can't fix this." Then we leave. We go somewhere no one knows us and start over. "With what money? You just lost everything too, remember?" Cameron sat beside her. "I have savings accounts my father doesn't control. It's not billions, but it's enough to live comfortably for years if we're careful. So your plan is we run away together? Hide from the world." Jade stood up, pacing. "That's not a life, Cameron. That's just survival. What else do you want me to say?" His voice rose with frustration. "I can't undo what happened. I can't make people stop hating us. All I can do is try to build something new." Before Jade could respond, there was a knock at the cabin door. They both froze. "Who knows about this place?" Jade whispered. "Ain't no one." "I never told anyone." The knock came again, louder. A woman's voice called out, "Cameron, I know you're in there." "Open the door." Cameron's eyes widened. "That's Ashley." The confrontation. Cameron opened the door slowly. Ashley stood on the porch wearing designer sunglasses and a crisp white shirt. She looked composed, perfect, like the chaos of the past 24 hours hadn't touched her. "Hello, husband," she said coolly. "May I come in?" Cameron stepped aside. Ashley walked into the cabin and removed her sunglasses. Her eyes swept over Jade with cold assessment. "So you're the woman who blew up my wedding," Ashley said. "Nice to officially meet you." "Ashley, I never meant for any of this," Jade started. "Please, spare me the innocent act." Ashley sat down in the armchair like she owned the place. "Cameron, we need to talk. Alone."
"Anything you say to me,
you can say in front of Jade." Ashley's smile was sharp. "Fine. My father wants to sue you for breach of contract. He's also threatening to destroy Blake Technologies from the inside. He has friends on your board. Let him try. I'm not part of the company anymore, as I heard about your dramatic disownment. Very theatrical." Ashley crossed her legs. "But here's the thing. I don't actually want to destroy you, Cameron. Believe it or not, I don't care about any of this." "Then why are you here?" Ashley turned to her. "Because despite what you both think, I'm not a villain. I'm a realist. And the reality is that this situation is damaging all of us." "What do you want?" Cameron asked. "I want out of this mess with my reputation intact. I want my trust fund released. And I want my father to stop using me as a bargaining chip." Ashley's mask slipped slightly, showing something raw underneath. "I want to be free, Cameron. That's all I ever wanted. Then why did you agree to marry me?" "Because I thought it was the only way." Ashley stood and walked to the window. "My father has controlled every aspect of my life since I was born. What I wore, who I talked to, what career I could pursue. The marriage was supposed to be my escape. I'd have money, status, and the ability to finally live on my own terms." Jade felt a pang of sympathy. "Ashley, I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be smart." Ashley turned to face them both. "Here's what's going to happen. Cameron is going to do a press conference. He's going to explain that our marriage was an arrangement, that both families pressured us, and that he's taking responsibility for ending it. That will destroy both our families' reputations, Cameron said. Well, Ashley's smile was cold. My father deserves it. And frankly, so does yours. They turned us into chess pieces. Time for the pieces to flip the board. Cameron looked at Jade. If I do this, it gets worse before it gets better. Much worse. The truth usually does, Jade said quietly. But it also sets us free, Ashley added. All of us. Cameron gets to be with whoever he wants. I get my trust fund released because the contract becomes void. And Jade stops being the villain in everyone's story. Why would you help us? Jade asked suspiciously. Ashley looked at her for a long moment. Because you were my friend once. Before all this money and pressure and expectations turn me into someone I don't recognize, maybe if I help you now, I can remember who I used to be. The press conference 3 days later, Cameron stood in front of a room full of reporters. Cameras flashed like lightning. Jade watched from backstage, her stomach in knots. Cameron looked calm, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. He wore a simple gray suit, no tie. His father and Ashley's father sat in the front row, their faces like stone. Thank you all for coming, Cameron began. I'm here to address the events of this past week and to tell you the truth. The room went silent. My marriage to Ashley Grant was not based on love. It was a business arrangement between two families who wanted to merge their companies. We were both pressured into it by parents who valued wealth and status over their children's happiness. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras clicked furiously. I take full responsibility for going through with the ceremony. I should have been honest from the start. Instead, I convinced myself that emotions didn't matter, that success was measured only in profit margins and stock prices. Cameron paused, looking directly at the camera. I was wrong, and I hurt people because of that wrongness. I hurt Ashley by treating her like a business partner instead of a person. I hurt Jade Morrison, who has been vilified in the media for simply existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. Is it true you're in a relationship with Ms. Morrison? A reporter called out. Yes. And before you ask, no, it didn't start before the wedding. We met that day. But in those few hours, I felt more connection and honesty than I'd felt in years of carefully arranged social interactions. Cameron's father stood up abruptly and walked out. The camera swiveled to capture his exit. My father believes I've betrayed our family legacy, Cameron continued steadily. He's disowned me and removed me from the company I helped build. I accept those consequences. Some things are worth losing everything for. Like what? Another reporter shouted. Like becoming a real person instead of a profitable corporation wearing a human suit. Cameron smiled slightly. Like choosing truth over convenience. Like learning that wealth means nothing if you're dead inside. Ashley stood up then, moving to stand beside Cameron at the podium. She looked directly at her father. I want to add something, she said clearly. I agreed to this arrangement because I felt I had no other choice. My father threatened to cut me off completely if I didn't marry someone he approved of. He wanted to control my life forever. Her father's face turned red with rage. But I'm done being controlled. I'm taking my trust fund, which is legally mine as of my 25th birthday, and I'm leaving. I'm going to pursue photography, which is what I actually love. And if my family disowns me for that, then they never loved me to begin with. She turned to Jade, who was still watching from backstage. Jade Morrison is not a home wrecker. She's the bravest person I know. She's built a life from nothing, pursuing art even when it meant struggling to pay rent. She's everything I wish I had the courage to be. Ashley stepped away from the microphone and walked off the stage. Head high, the press conference dissolved into chaos. Reporters shouted questions. Both fathers were yelling at their lawyers. Security had to clear the room. Backstage, Cameron found Jade. You did it, she corrected. You told the truth, even though it cost you everything. Not everything. He pulled her close. I still have you. You barely know me. And let's fix that. We have time now. All the time in the world. 6 months later, Jade stood in a small art gallery in Portland, far from the city where everything had fallen apart. The walls were covered with her paintings. Vibrant scenes of lakes and cabins and new beginnings. Cameron worked at a local tech startup, coding instead of managing. He made a fraction of what he used to earn. And he smiled more than Jade had ever seen him smile. They lived in a tiny apartment above a bookstore. The heat worked sometimes. They ate a lot of pasta. Money was tight. It was the happiest either of them had ever been. Ashley sent postcards from around the world. She was traveling, taking photographs, finally free. Her pictures were being featured in galleries. Critics called her work raw and honest. Cameron's father had tried to contact him twice. Cameron hadn't responded. Some bridges were better left burned? Ready for the opening? Cameron asked, straightening his tie. He looked handsome in his thrift store suit. Nervous, Jade admitted. What if no one comes? Then we'll buy cheap wine and look at your beautiful art alone. But people did come. The gallery filled with strangers who had read about their story and wanted to support them. Others came simply because they liked the paintings. An older woman spent 20 minutes staring at Jade's piece called The Cabin. It showed the place where everything had changed, rendered in soft blues and grays that suggested both peace and melancholy. How much? The woman asked. Jade told her the price, expecting her to walk away. Instead, the woman pulled out her checkbook. I'll take it. This reminds me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose love over safety. By the end of the night, Jade had sold 7 paintings. It wasn't enough to make her rich, but it was enough to pay rent for 3 months. Enough to prove that she could build a life on her own terms. As they locked up the gallery, Cameron pulled her into a hug. I'm proud of you. We did this together. Oh, you did this. I just had the privilege of watching. Jade looked up at him. Do you ever regret it? Giving up everything? Cameron thought for a moment. I regret hurting people. I regret not being honest sooner. But losing the money and the company? He shook his head. That wasn't losing everything. That was finally finding out what actually matters. They walked home hand in hand through streets that didn't know their story. In Portland, they were just 2 ordinary people trying to make a life. No scandal, no judgment, just the quiet work of building something real. It wasn't the fairy tale ending people expected. There were no mansions or private jets or dramatic reconciliations with wealthy families, but there was honesty. There was growth. There was love that had been tested by fire and emerged stronger. Sometimes, the best happy ending isn't getting everything you thought you wanted. Sometimes it's losing everything and discovering that what remains is enough.